Andrew, we're here shooting another Canyon Questions. This is the video series on our church website where we try to think through ministry issues, philosophy of ministry, methodology of ministry, how we think about what God has called us to do in ministry. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the call to ministry. You know, there's a number of men in our church that are wondering, has God called me to be a pastor? You know, has the Lord called me to full-time ministry? And so as you think about that, what would be your counsel to those men? How would you want to help them think through what does it mean to determine a call to ministry?
Great. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad for it. 1 Timothy 3 is where I would go. Paul writes to Timothy about the qualifications of an elder, overseer, pastor. And it starts off by saying that a man must aspire to do the work of the office, not just have the title and the name badge over the door, but he wants to do the work of that ministry. And the work of a shepherd is not easy work.
Right.
It's not always as rewarding as you would like it to be. So the first thing I would ask a man is, do you want to do the work? Because oftentimes they think of the ministry and they think, I'm going to study the Bible for hours on end, and I'm going to have my coffee next to me and my books, and no one's going to bother me, and I'm going to go preach and everything will be fine. Well, there's more to the work. I mean, look at the life of Jesus, Paul, Peter. I mean, look at all the apostles. It was hard work. And so the first thing I would want to walk a guy through based on 1 Timothy 3 is, do you want to do the work? And kind of
Are you sure you want to do
Are
this?
you sure you want to do this? And then you can kind of see the twinkle in someone's eye. It says, that's what I want to do.
Right.
Or kind of the shock, you know, and they might not have thought about that. 1 Timothy 3 also then goes through the character qualifications. At the top of that list, a man must be above reproach. And so you take your life and you look at those character qualifications and you say, is this me? Are these things, every one of them, the pattern of my life? Because if one's missing, then that's it. Are these the pattern of my life? And then in that list of character qualifications, it says an aptness or ability to teach. And so it's one thing to have a desire for the work, have the character, but that still doesn't mean you're qualified for pastoral ministry.
Right.
Can you teach? Are people helped when you explain the Bible to them in an informal setting or a formal setting, I would say. And the interesting thing about that whole chapter is, and I think this needs to be heard by our generation today, you don't determine those things by yourself.
I don't get to decide if I'm called to ministry.
No, I think I'm called to ministry, so I'm going to go to seminary. That's not a good statement. I put a red flag up then. I'd rather someone say, I believe I may be called to ministry. I have that desire. I want to teach. I've maybe taught before, and someone thought it was helpful, and I think this is the character of my life. So what do you think, church? What do you think, pastor, elders? What are your thoughts here? I mean, by nature, being above reproach means that other people
are looking at your life. Yeah.
So you want to know what those other people say.
Yeah.
So I would point a man to those three aspects of 1 Timothy 3 and say that you do that in conjunction with your church leaders.
Yeah. And as you then look at that man's life, like you think, here's these men in our church who seem to have a desire to be a pastor, to serve the Lord in full-time ministry. What would be some of the things that you would be looking for in that man's life, other than the ability to teach? How would you start to determine some of those things?
Yeah, we'd want to put a guy through some kind of tests to see if those things happen, right? Or if those things are true. Give him opportunities. So I'd want to know about that man's relationship to his wife. Definitely.
Huge.
You can't, shepherd your family. You can't shepherd the flock of God. So I want to know about his wife.
Yeah.
I would like to get him some teaching opportunities. It doesn't mean he's going to be in the pulpit for me. Oh, you want to go into ministry? Hey, then preach the next section on Sunday morning. But there are other ways in the church to teach different areas. Maybe lead a small group discussion, prepare a message for this or that. So we'd want to kind of test that ability. And if a guy bombs the first time, it doesn't mean, sorry, you're not in. I mean, we'd want to work them through some things to see how they can grow. And, so we'd want to give them some of those opportunities. And then maybe just kind of bring them close to help them see what the work looks like. Bring them on the inside, so to speak.
Yep.
Maybe they go on a pastoral visit, or You give them, hey, I got an email, you black out all the names, or you get an email from another church as a kind of a case study. How would you handle this type of thing? Would you want, this might mean a long night, this might mean meetings, and just kind of bring him into what the work really looks like.
Yeah.
Because he might think, oh, pastor just works on Sunday, great.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I'm in. So I wanted him to get a taste of what the ministry looks like,
right.
Not at the high points, but maybe at the low points.
Some of the harder points too.
Yeah.
As you think about, it says it's a fine work he desires to do. There's an aspiration. There's a desiring. How does that flush itself out in a man's life? How do you know, other than that he says, I want to do it?
Good.
What does it look like?
Yeah. There's that fine line between aspiration and prideful angling for position. So I want to try to discern that. So if a guy says, hey, I want to go into pastoral ministry, I'm telling you, pastor, can you put me in a position? If I sense that there's he wants to be at this position, I might give him this position right now. Oh, why don't you go and meet with this person who's struggling with that? I don't really want to do that. I was thinking more, give me a teaching role.
Ministry entails.
Yeah. So you kind of are trying to discern: is this a humble aspiration or a prideful aspiration? Associated with that, I think that you want to try to assess whether a man really loves people or not.
That's great.
Does this man love the idea of ministry or the people in this ministry?
Right.
And so I want to know, does this man have a love for the people that he's currently around?
Yeah.
Or is he using them to get to seminary, then to get to some other pastoral call? If we sense that, we're going to have a conversation real fast.
Yeah.
This is about loving people.
That's good. And that's going to show up in the way that he lives, in the way that he serves, in the way that he interacts with the church.
Yeah, so if this guy hasn't been serving in the church at all and says I might feel called to ministry, I might say, let's press pause on that for a year.
Great. Yeah.
And love people in the church in the way the New Testament would call you to.
Yeah.
Grab a guy and try to disciple him into the image of Christ. And when he needs you, he calls you and you're there. And, sacrifice for him and love people. And if we don't know that love is there, we're not going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And the neat thing is we've been hearing from men who have been thinking about this, and in so many of them you see already a pattern of loving the church.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
It is.
To hear. So we want this kind of excitement about ministry to happen, but at the same time,
it's one of the signs of a healthy church.
It is. People are being, duplicated, and they want to go out there and do the same things that they're seeing in their leaders and things like that. So that's good. At the same time, if a guy says I might be called to ministry, and through that process it ends up, no, maybe you're not. That doesn't mean he's less of a Christian.
Right.
Just might not. He's just not called to this part of the ministry, and that's fine too. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Because like you started out, you said every Christian is a minister to some degree.
That's right.
We minister the word to each other, and so you can do that as a job, or as you have another job. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, there's a sense in which it's like when someone says, "I think I'm called to ministry." It's like, you are.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4:11 through 16. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Because you're a Christian, you're called to ministry.
That's right.
So now it's just a question of what kind of ministry.
That's right.
In what context has God called you to ministry?
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks. Hopefully that's helpful to some of the men in our congregation that are thinking through the call to ministry. We'll continue to pray for them and follow up with more videos and Canyon questions. Great.